All right. Well, good morning again, everybody. I am Nicole Walker, the director or executive director of 3G, God's Gorgeous Girl Incorporated nonprofit. And we are super excited to be hosting this Spring Forward Who I Can Be empowerment session on today, encouraging women and girls to achieve their highest potential and reminding us that we can be anything as girls and women, anything that we put our minds to. There's no limit. There are no restrictions to what we can be. We are fortunate today to have a group of awesome ladies here joining us on the Zoom call. So first I'll start off introducing our fellow board members, the director of events, who's also co-hosting this event with me, Miss Ashley Ballard. And we also have Miss Beatrice McLaren, who is also on the call. She's our secretary as well as a board member. And we also are fortunate to have Dr. Shermaine on with us today, one of our speakers, and one of them is Johnnie Maldon Bright as well, who is another one of our speakers. So we are going to go ahead and get started. We'll start off with a quick game of empowerment that Miss Ashley is going to lead us in.
Awesome. So in the past, we have done empowerment sessions where we discussed who we are right now, our identities, our purpose, what we can do now to achieve our goals. So we wanted to start off a game and just see if you can guess who these people are. So the game is called Who Am I? So we're going to give a few seconds if you have pencil and paper available, just to jot down who these wonderful, beautiful women are who have all impacted their community in some way. We'll go ahead and give I don't know, what, 60 seconds? If you can write that fast. This is our pop culture quiz. All right, great. So if you guys are not done out there, if you're watching, then go ahead and click pause so you can finish up because I am about to go into the answers. All right, so number one, as we can see, is Lupita Nyong'o. She's an actress. Naomi Osaka, tennis player. Priyanka Chopra, also an actress. Amanda Gorman, who is a poet laureate. Lizzo, who is a singer. Queen Latifah, multi-talented. Yes. Zendaya, actress and singer. Meg Thee Stallion, rapper. Meghan Markle, actress and activist. And Octavia Spencer, an actress. Awesome sauce. I hope you guys got 100%. If not, now you know.
Awesome. All right. So thank you, Ashley. So we started kind of this journey last year. Our theme was Who Am I? Really getting in touch with who we are as girls and women, learning about ourselves, learning to love ourselves, knowing how valuable we are and understanding our worth here in this world. So that was kind of our theme last year and all throughout the year of our empowerment sessions. And now this year we are continuing on that same path, but we're springing forward to talk about who we can be, right? There are no limitations to who we can become in this world. And so that's the theme of today's empowerment session, springing forward from who I am to who I can be. And so with that, here's a quick little agenda of what we're going to accomplish today. We have, like I said earlier, two amazing speakers. We're going to hear from Ms. Johnnie Maldon Bright, who is a former FBI agent in the United States of America, who has an amazing story. We'll have a Dream Big activity. Then we'll hear from Dr. Shermaine Mitchell-Ryan, who is an amazing cancer biologist, awesome story and journey in a limited field. And then we'll have a closeout activity and of course, take some time to talk about any questions or discussion points that arise from the presentations. So with that, let me introduce our first speaker, Miss Johnnie Maldon Bright. She is a native of Caryville, Florida. And if, for those who don't know where that is, it's in a little small town in the Panhandle of Florida. She's a former high school teacher and police officer. She's a graduate of Albany State College and Georgia State University. She is one of just the first 5 Black female FBI agents. There's actually a movie out about her after this session. Go find it. That came out a couple decades ago, but it's called Johnnie Mae Gibson FBI, and it's about actually her experience as an undercover agent. So shameless plug there. She's also listed in American Heroes. That's authored by Rosie Greer, and her favorite quote is very powerful by Dr. Miles Monroe. The poorest person in the world is the person without a dream. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over and let us hear from Miss Johnnie Maldon Bright.
Okay, thank you, Nikki. I guess when I was going to be talking like, and forgive me if I'm like too here, thought I would be talking to the girls, you know, and so if I sound a little different because I'm so much older than most of you anyway, please forgive me. But anyway, good morning, and thank you, Reverend Nikki, for inviting me to share in this, I call it the 3 Gorgeous Girls, you know, our movement. I like the fact it says spring forward, and then it says, who can I be? Well, I would tell them that they can be anyone they choose to be. With a little hard work and effort, you can strive it. And I'll say, and then later I explain why I say you can be anyone that you choose to be. And that's a little bit below the level, but still, you got to try and strive for it in order to get it. I always think of life or trying to do anything. It's like a highway. You got to get on there and try to move over, you know, you're going to run into somebody in the way. You got to go around. And these are things that happen in everyday life. And that's the way I look at it. I grew up the middle child of 7 children, 3 girls older than me, 3 brothers younger than me. My father was, and I have to give you a little bit of this so you can understand where I came from. My father worked on a sawmill, and he got a GI when he got a GED when he came back from the Army. My mother was, she was orphaned at the age of 8. She had a 3rd grade education, and she was paralyzed. So we sort of had a very little small family in a town. And my mother was very protective of us, saying, no matter what you guys do bad, people are going to say, because I'm crippled, you know, this is why you're like this. That was so important to me that I didn't want her to bear a burden, that I made it up in my mind that no matter what, I would do everything I can to keep her from being sorry for me or for anyone. But as it would have it, I was, you know, we was very poor. Just see it like that. When I finished, my older 3 sisters went away, left me there, as I like to say. And I found out that I wanted to go to college, but first of all, the nearest college to me where I could come home every night, you know, my mom was like 40 miles away, and it was a junior college. But with perseverance and some maneuvering and some little deals, I was able to get on one bus and go 20 miles, then get off of that bus, which was a school bus going to the school. And then I would stand there on the side of the road, or maybe 30 minutes before the next bus come along, which was a predominant white bus. And I had never been into an integrated system, the school system. And that was probably my first achievement of dealing with the, if you want to say, multicultural world. Anyway, I made it, and I finally graduated from a junior college. I wound up thinking, now I've got to, and I wanted to be a nurse, mainly because of my mother's position, handicap, and I thought I could be better taking care of it. And I found out that I did go to junior college, at Chipola Junior College in Mariana, Florida. I was a nurse, got my AA in nursing, but now I'm kind of stuck. Where's the nearest college I can go to finish up? And these are rural areas that I'm living in, if you can understand that. Eventually I had to go to Albany, Georgia, and to enter in Albany State. And I had no money, but one of the teachers at the junior college, which was a white lady, actually said, I will help you get a student loan. I'll sign for you, because she really liked me. She fixed it so I could work on the work study program just to get $15 so I could pay a little bus fare. And I was able to get into the I was able to get into Albany State in the nursing program. And lo and behold, after that first year, they lost their accreditation. I mean, these are challenges that I had to endure. And this is fun. I think young people, the first one probably would make them fall out and says, no way. But anyway, I endured it. And eventually I said, okay, go to a counselor and find out what is the next thing I can do to graduate. Because by then, a girlfriend said, I got a friend going to let me come to New York and say, let's go there and work and we'll make money for the next term. Well, I had never been out of this little comfort zone of Caryville, Florida, which is so tiny. Maybe the population was 500, maybe. But anyway, I talked to Mom and we worked out a plan so someone would be there with her. And we went to New York, got there with my sister. She lived in, what do you call it? She lived in Harlem. And there's a word I'm trying to think of. Anyway, she was just for her family. And I had to sleep on the floor. But it was okay. I had my plan. It's all about what I knew I was trying to achieve. I stayed there with her each summer. I went up and worked in the garment district and made more than enough money for that tuition year. Went to school and finished. Now that I'm out, I realized that, okay, what I'm going to do. But I didn't go into nursing because I went back into health and physical education because I just wanted to go ahead and get out of school. As it would do, I found a job 40 miles away. And I was able to teach for a year. And I realized that really wasn't what I wanted to do. So I kept striving around. And then I got a job with the police department. And I was the second female hired on that police department in Albany, Georgia. I stayed there for 4 years. And I realized that wasn't what I wanted to do. There was something better that I wasn't satisfying my soul. And lo and behold, an FBI agent came into the office. And I was working in the detective unit at that time. And I was assigned to work with him. We worked very good together. And he said to me, have you ever considered being an FBI agent? And I thought, no, to be honest with you, I mean, I had no idea what an FBI agent did. Our family was strictly, the police officers there, they help you, respect them, and that's it. You didn't have any other contact with them. And anyway, I said, and he was so nice. And he says, well, you did this report so good. You really should consider. And I said, okay. So he told me, he said, why don't you take the test? And that was fine with me. Another challenge. I took the test, I passed. And I joined the FBI in October 1976. And a way I had to learn you had like within 3 weeks to get ready and report to the academy, which is in Quantico, Virginia, on the Marine base. And again, I'm out of my cultural setting. I'm not in my comfort zone anymore. I go there and I find out that they assign you to rooms in alphabetical order. So the next person to be my roommate was a white female, a blonde from, California. And I thought, oh God, no, not her, please. But it turned out that she's still my best friend today. So I truly believe that God give you what he knows you need. And I can say that because find out, meanwhile, I had earned my master's. I was a police officer. I was a teacher. She did the same exact thing. So we were able to really talk about this, and one other Black female was in that class, and she was a social worker from Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. And I really thought, man, I would rather be with her, Well, she was put in the room with her preacher's daughter from Louisville, Kentucky. So they didn't get along at all. I mean, and you had to share one bathroom though. So they clashed. But anyway, I guess I learned a lot. I've learned that I think we may want something, or we feel that we can't get something because we don't have the funds or the support. But if you just take a chance, as I like to do, say, take a movement and go for it, and you'll be surprised. I truly think God will help you. Even if you're thinking about that, I truly feel that there's someone always protecting you and watching over you. And if you just believe, I truly believe that you can. Well, I even then, when I was at the FBI Academy, I always, every morning before class, I went into a chapel. They had a chapel there, and I always said, God, please just don't let me fail to have to go back to the police department and look like I had to come. And I never failed a test. If you failed one test, that was it. And that had to be 85. If you failed another test, they didn't question you. You was escorted out of the academy, give you a little, what they call it, a voucher to help you get back home. That was it. And I was lucky that I made it through. When I left that, first of all, I was the first FBI agent, African-American FBI agent, to our supervisor squad of agent in FBI. This in itself was really a little hard, but because the white male that was there was from Indianapolis, and he was a relief, and he really wanted that death. So you're gonna have challenges. You just got to be prepared to deal with them, and you got to think of what if. Is that my favorite word? Always before you go off, so what if? And the problem with this young man, he felt like this Black woman has come in here and took my job. And this is something you was over the SWAT team. This has never been done. And they could not understand that over the SWAT team, over your bank robbery squad, over your extortion, kidnapping, and et cetera, et cetera. And I know they are civil rights violation. And when our Malice Green was brutal beaten by the police department in Detroit, I was responsible for that case. And it was a good experience. I learned that sometimes you're gonna have challenge, you got to deal with them, but you can't stop because somebody's coming behind you, and you want to make it a little bit easier for them, you know. And till this day, there are agents calling me and support person that I went out to say, hey, it's okay, let's see what we can help you with. If we just learn to share a little bit and reach out for those who may not have a great understanding of how to deal with the other cultures or races or whatever, I think that would be a good idea, because I see young people all the time saying, oh, I'm not gonna put up with that, I don't have time for that. And I said, but take a little time. And you know, and it's just, I have one daughter and 3 grandkids, so believe me, I know what it's like, especially with the grandkids. It was bad enough with the daughter, but with the grandkids. So, and my daughter's be 50 years old in a couple of months, and I'm still dealing with that. But that's just life. So I think if we can just learn to, they're on a different path than young people these days. They're just not the way we were brought up. And it's because of the whole world. It's not just yours or one or this one. They all have they want it now. They want it now. And they also don't want to have to work hard for it. They don't want to go through all that. They don't, because you know what? They look at us and see their parents, they ain't going through that. So, you know, but it's okay. I think we just have to try and understand that, bring them to the point that, you know what, the path of life, you better choose. The whole idea is you got to choose a path now, what you want to do and where you want to go. Okay. Choose it, and you need to walk softly, as I like to say, on it. There's no map or telling you what to do and how to do it. You got to go out here and you got to start thinking for yourself, and it can be done. I'm talking to girls now that call me at least once a month, just daughters who talk to me. And I'm hearing all the time that, oh, and I said, well, keep dreaming. They said, yeah, I do dream, but these dreams not coming true. I said, when you're least expected, they will, because that's all I can tell them right now. But I do believe that one of the things I try to tell the girls that I talk to, especially African-American girls, is that you got to believe in yourself. Believe that, look at somebody, find somebody out there, say, oh, there's Miss Porter. If she did it, I can do it. And you know what? If you believe that, you probably will accomplish that. But a lot of them will say, oh, yes, ma'am, I will. And then later I hear people come back and say, you were right. She was nice. I thought she was mean. I didn't think she would help me. Yeah, she gave me this and she did me that. You know, because we remember what we went through with. Now, there are some that don't do that, but I think as a larger picture, that there are a lot of people that did it. My last thing I have to say about this real quick is that one of my things I like is when Dr. King graduated at the age of 15, And Daddy King took him to Dr. Mays at Morehouse College and told him, he walked in and talked to him and says, Dr. Mays, this is my son. He's 15 years old. He just graduated from high school. He's a good boy. He's really good, and he got good value. But my son do not know how to dream. Teach my child how to dream. Dr. Mays says, son, listen to me. He says, here's a piece of paper. I want you to read this every day and base it. I'll tell you what was on there. He said, this is what helped me to become who I am. And I read it every day, even now. He said, and I want you to do it. And the basis goes on to say, it must be borne in mind that the tragedy of life does not lie in reaching your goal. The tragedy of life lies in not having goals to reach for. It's not a calamity to die with your dream not fulfilled. It is a calamity not to dream. It is not a calamity to lie and not having a goal to reach. It is a calamity not to have a goal to reach. It is a calamity not to have ideas to capture, he says, but it is a calamity to have no ideas. It's not a disgrace to reach the stars. It is a disgrace to not have no stars to reach star. I think that if you don't have something you're reaching for or thinking about, or your mind is going to kind of die down here, I guess is what I'm thinking. So I really love that by Dr. Anyway, man, I can't think of his name. Dr. Mays at Morehouse College. So I try to tell the grandkids now, but they don't. They says, Grandma, that's in the old days. So, I pray for them and wish them the best, and try to every time encourage them and say, see, listen, they can't believe when I tell them I used to pick cotton and how hard it was. And that way my daddy used to put it in there how much you made. That's how you got your clothes to next year to go to school. Got that little tiny little sneaker Maypop shoe. You got a couple of things. But you know what? When I grew up, though, that's a different. Everybody was kind of on that same level. So it was not a hurt for that other kid. So I think the best we can do is continue to tell our kid that if they want to leave, especially if you're in high school now and you want to see yourself going further, you got to just you got to take a big picture and realize that it's not going to get any easier for you out here. You got to look at life and say, if I want, everybody's not going to be a football player making $200 million a year, or everybody's not going to be a doctor who's famous. Try to find something that you feel happy with and that you will enjoy. And I think that's what you have to tell them. And some may not ever do anything, but there's always something out there they can find that they can do. And I just wish I could just change a lot of the young people now. It is a big difference in what we grew up with. And I don't find it hard dealing with. I just know that they came up in a different lifestyle, setting, and we just have to pray. We just have to pray and hope that everything's work out right. My husband didn't do something right, y'all. I'm sorry, because somebody called. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
But anyway, that's just my view on it, ladies. I still would like to see, I know that they said dream, and I dreamed all of my life. Some was good and some that wasn't so good. But I think the most positive thing we can tell our kids is that you got to believe in yourself if you believe enough, but you got to believe you want it. I wanted a better life than what I had. And I felt like I could. And by the way, I was hoping the girls were here and I'm going to shut up. When I was growing up, and I know y'all may remember Julia, this is somebody who I saw on TV that looked like me, even though it was a black and white TV. I thought, oh my gosh, she's so nice. And look at that pretty outfit she got on. And she wearing a hat. I mean, the first time I saw a nurse without a hat, I was like, she doesn't have her hat on. Because this is what the nurses that took care of my mother when she was sick, they always had a hat on. About 10 years ago, I saw this in a toy store, and I really had to have it. Because to me, this motivated me. So there are always all kind of things that can motivate you. And and you know what, ladies, this is a little, I had to tell this because I was thinking about giving this to a little girl named my little girl, my little princess over there. But it is I see that now it's a very valuable item, and I didn't know that. But I want, because she's a little girl, I want to give her that. I mean, and it's, so in other words, what I'm trying to say, when you see people look like you doing things, then you feel you can aspire to be that person. And I think I've said everything, but that's my take on it. And I'm always available to talk to, especially young girls, because I only had my mama to, that would share stuff with me and help me. And she was in a wheelchair, but she always would say, and in other words, my mother was so happy to see her first child graduate from college. She came to it. My junior college graduation, my sister brought her. She couldn't get out of the car. She came to my 4-year college education. And I cry sometimes when I think of that, how proud she was. And that's, I think my poor mama, she just went back to that little town in Caryville, Florida, and told everybody my baby girl graduated from college. And I probably was the first person that graduated from that college, from that town. And, and it wasn't that much to me, but it meant that much to her. And thank you, ladies, for letting me run y'all with that long story there.
No, outstanding. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome.
To talk us through this and really share from your journey and experience. I think all of us, regardless of your age, I've been out of high school just for a few years now. Okay, more than a few. But I think even at my age, what your journey and your experience, what you just shared, was inspiring to me. There are takeaways that I want to highlight from what you said. You encourage girls to always dream, and women to never stop dreaming, always dream. What is it you want to do? There's so much more beyond your environment and your limitations. I think your story is a testament to the fact that it doesn't matter where we come from or where we start out. We have no limitations. You can go and become anything you want to be. It doesn't matter what environment you were born into. That doesn't have to stop you. And then you talked about finding people that you can aspire to, or people that look like you, or people in places doing things that you would like to do, and work hard. Try to connect with those, get mentors. And those are some of the things that can help us become all that we want to do. And of course, the third thing and final was to work hard and don't give up. That is so true. In this life, I think we'll all, by the time we're old and leave this earth, we will have experienced many no's. Not yet, but that doesn't have to be the end. And you never allow that to discourage you. You keep pushing forward and working hard towards your goals.
That's true.
I think that is outstanding. I want to open it up. Does anybody else like to add anything or ask some questions?
Yeah, actually, Nick, I jotted down all of the things that you said as well. One of the things that I got that I wanted to add was there were moments in your life that you had plans, and then some moments that you didn't have plans, but regardless of what it was, it still worked out for you. And I think it's important for girls and women to know that sometimes you don't know what you want to do. You don't know what's going to happen, but that doesn't mean that something is not going to happen for you. It's just taking that first step, which is something that you mentioned also. And a big thing that you talked about that that's important to me is giving back. I think we should set ourselves up so that we can give back and help someone else so that it does become easier. You went through a lot, and we don't have some of those barriers up anymore because of women like you who did the work before. And I think that we need to take those same ideals and, give it to the next person, essentially. So thank you so much for that.
You're welcome. Oh, one other. Let me say this is important, not to be negative, but to show other females that were coming behind me in the Bureau, FBI, that how to, well, I filed several EEO complaints against the Bureau, and my name was blatant, and I was sitting with some other agents who were trying to get position in the supervisor position. And eventually I went through all of that. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that if you see somebody, and even if you don't join in and support them, if you don't, that's your prerogative, try to let them know that if there's anything I can do, like helping them when they're trying to get a lawyer to keep up with your data, make sure you have your facts down. I learned a lot of things to help other people about that, is that even if you're in a meeting and somebody says for instance, I had a white guy to tell me, oh, well, all of your supervisors above you, you have to tell them, I want to put in for this position. Will you recommend me? I've been told, oh no, here's a white man. He has a wife and 3 kids. He needs that position. And I'm saying, yes, but I'm qualified. And I may be a divorcee or whatever, living alone now, but I need to be awarded or at least giving me credit for what I've accomplished and what I've earned. I've earned this. This can discourage the next person to try for it. So it's those type of things that if you see someone, and I have a lot of agent male and female call me every day about things they're going through that they have passed down to younger women and guys. It's just that I hate to see anybody suffer the way I did, I guess. And if I can find an even easier avenue, I try to help them go that way. And that's all. Especially young girls, I do have a part, I just think that sometimes it doesn't have to have a little extra female perspective sometimes to, to push them along the way.
Mhm. I wanted to echo the same sentiments that Nikki and Ashley said, but there was one thing that I had to chuckle at myself, and that is when you said that you went to Quantico and you were thinking, please don't give me this roommate. And sure enough, that's your roommate and that's your best friend. I was just talking to a girlfriend of mine the other day, and I said, the universe has a sense of humor, because every single person that I say I don't want to interact with, I end up interacting with that person. And it rings so true. You have to make time and make these patients, and you have to go through life. You used an analogy of riding on the highway and dodging cars. I always think for myself, as a dreamer, when my dad used to take us roller skating when we were younger, and he always told us, because we were the slower ones, my sister and I were the slower ones because we were kids, and they would zoom around us and we were scared. He said, you don't move your position, they will move around you. The accident comes when you try to fix yourself to the faster skaters. And I think about that, and I think about me now as an adult being one of the faster people and just kind of maneuvering around those obstacles to get to where I need to go. So thank you so much for your speech.
Okay, you're most welcome. Most welcome.
Outstanding.
Thank you.
Right, well, we're gonna move to a little activity here. Ashley's gonna lead us in our next activity before we hear from our second speaker.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, so what I would like for everyone to do, some of you all may still have aspirations right now, or maybe you want to think back to when you were younger, what you wanted to do. But if you could be anything, or back then, if you would have been anything, no restrictions, what would it have been? So we want you to go to the link at the top, polev.com/3G guys, Gorgio 154. Let's see. I don't know if we can get it in the chat. Let's see. I can put it.
We can also text 3G guides Gorgio 154 to 22333, and you can submit your response that way as well.
Also, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are viewing this, I would encourage you to just write down. It's always helpful to write things down and see them. Something that you would want to be, something that you're dreaming of, something you're aspiring to.
I want to get it on this thing here. Why can't I text it here? Hey, that's too heavy for me. Oh.
I was looking at something else and came back and saw some of the responses. And I think my favorite of these is definitely retired. Same girl, same.
Can't say that.
It's nice to be retired. I've been retired for about 20 years. And
Nice. That's my dream right now.
but it's boring now because it's boring. If you hadn't planned your retirement, like you're going to do things but you're going to get tired of sitting around. You're going to want to do something else if you've been working a lot. I'm telling you, I did go to Mayo Clinic and I did volunteer because that's where I go to the doctors at. But I got bored sitting at the desk, everybody coming by, and then I gave up. So now I'm bored sitting at home again. But it is nice to be retired. It truly is.
There's always a if and or but with everything, right?
Yeah. These are some amazing responses, I think. Great responses. The writer, director, activist, film actress, pediatrician, CEO. And the awesome thing is all of these things are attainable, and I feel like the era that we're in right now, the time we're in, this is becoming even more attainable. Not to be political, but we're currently facing the nomination of the first African-American woman to the Supreme Court. That's historic. That never happened before, but there's so many barriers that are being broken down, and particularly for women and especially for women of color right now. I just hope all girls everywhere are inspired to know that if you're watching this or wherever you are, whatever your aspiration is to be, you can become that. You can become that if you work hard and, whatever it is that you want to do, don't ever feel like you can't attain it. It's achievable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and to add to that, you mentioned Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. If I could echo my good cousin Cory Booker, when he said, I think the most important of all that he said was, "You are worthy."
That's right.
And I think we need to echo that continually in our minds, that we are worthy.
And he also told her, God got you.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
And I even start crying, and I felt so sorry for her, but she's going to be all right. I'm with Cory. I'm all the way on that. And I have to admit, I was so proud of her. So proud to see a Black woman up there on the Supreme Court justice.
Yep. All right. All right. Well, we have one more awesome speaker to hear from. Let me share her bio, and Miss Ashley's going to introduce her. Oops, sorry, guys. 1 second. There we go.
All right. So Dr. Shermaine Mitchell-Ryan, so you can read all of her accolades and qualifications and credentials. She is an amazing scientist, but she's also an artist and multi-talented. And even more than that, she's just a great human in general. She is a wonderful friend. She is a great mom. She is a supportive wife. And she is there for people. And I think those are one of her most important qualifications. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to my good sis and my good friend, Dr. Shermaine Mitchell-Ryan.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. First, what else can I say? I feel like, Miss Johnnie, what else can I add to that? I was so touched and so moved by your story and your journey, and all the points that you made were spot on. So when I was first invited to come talk to the young scholars of 3G, I was thinking, what can I tell them about? I started to think about, who am I? So I am so much, but there's so much that I will become as well. And I feel like I can tell you a little piece about the journey that I've had so far, but there's so much of my journey that hasn't even begun. And I think that's greatest part of my story. So as I can continue to learn, I continue to evolve, and who I am today may be very different from who I will be in 5 years from now. So just kind of thinking about it, I'm thinking about, spring forward. It also made me think about a spring, like the physical properties of a spring. And initially you have to apply pressure before that spring goes anywhere. And that is just to say, when growing up, while I looked like an angel, I was not always an angel. And there was a lot of dreams that I had that I had not positioned myself properly to achieve. So there was a lot of stumbling, but always stumbling in the right direction. And it was always those mistakes that applied pressure, that fire, that helped determine who I was. It helped to form or help to build the person who I am today. So I'll start by saying, I'm the youngest of three, the only girl, grew up here in Washington, D.C., and what I wanted to do, what I thought I was going to do, was become a Broadway performer. Because it didn't really matter whether, Oprah was my hero, but I saw how she could touch an audience, how she could move her audience, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to have an impact on people's lives. And whether it was through being a broadcaster or a communicator like Oprah, or being a Broadway or stage performer, moving people through my performance, that's something that I knew that I wanted to do. And while I am still on the path to that journey, what I've learned is that those skills and being expressive and being communicative has also helped me in my career path in being a scientist. So, I had this dream, I'm going to Broadway. I listened to science, I was interested in science. I was always a great student, but because the principles were never really applicable to anything that was really important to me while I was in school, so it's like, I can remember this stuff. I have a good memory, but why is this important to me? And it wasn't until I had one particular science teacher in junior high school who was explaining to me, or explaining to the class, the benefits of yogurt, and talking about competition between microorganisms. It's like, oh, okay. So now I understand why it's a great thing for women, people in general, to eat good food, because what you put in your body kind of determines how your body functions. So then I was like, okay, this is making sense. But also as a person of color, specifically, I'm an African-American woman, both my father and my grandmother were diagnosed with diabetes. They had the sugar. That's what they called it, right? And it wasn't until, I did a little more learning that I began to see the connections between what we eat, our environment, and our health. So I lost both my grandmother and my father due to complications of diabetes. And, I'm sitting there and I was like, not once did a physician tell them to change their diet. And still, they got metformin, which is something that's commonly prescribed for people who have diabetes. They had insulin, but there was never any push to have them make those behavioral changes. And it's like, okay, here's a gap. Here's an issue, which also got me very interested in the social behavioral aspects in health. So, I was really geared toward learning. I had the sticky brain, and I thought I knew so much. I went to a private preparatory school in Andover, Massachusetts. I got sick. I had to get a medical discharge, and I came back home, and I was just like, what? I'm done with this school stuff. Because for what I knew, or what I thought I knew, is that pedigree means everything. If I'm not going to graduate from this prestigious prep school, then why keep trying? So I dropped out of school because I thought I knew. I thought I knew everything. I thought I knew, but somebody was praying for me. Somebody somewhere was praying for me. So instead of going back to school, I got a job at CVS Pharmacy, and I was really good at my job. I was the best tech there. I probably knew, I had the confidence, and I knew that I was good. But again, there was limits to where I could go because I didn't have the education, and because I didn't have that education, I was dispensable. And because I didn't have that education, I had to work under the pharmacist who had the degrees, who also had the cash. We work to support ourselves, but it's just I just felt that there was so much more that I could do, so much more that I can do. So what did I do? I went right back to school, graduated a little late, but it was okay. These are all things that are just sharpening me. All of these sometimes self-imposed challenges did nothing but help build me to be the person that I was. So by the time that I was ready to apply to college, C's didn't get degrees from me because I was paying for that. Right? So if I am paying for my education, then I am shooting for the best. I'm shooting for the star. So, and I can remember in my first principles of biology class, I'm sitting there, and again, I'm a little older than some of the kids that are students who are amongst those, maybe a class of 200. I'm sitting there, and I'm feeling a little out of place because I am one of 3 Black students who were there as well. And what the professor told us to do is that look to your right and look to your left. I guarantee one of those persons will not be here by the end of the course. I was just like, wow, that's a way to give a pep talk to your students. But what I was determined to be was one of those students who were there at the end of the course. And then my first test, I got like an 87, and I'm just like, but I studied so hard. And the professor's like, you did great. You did great. And what that signaled to me was that she shouldn't have, and I can't compare myself to the performance of everyone around me. I have to compare myself, I have to be the greatest competition for myself. So while I knew that 87 wasn't good enough for me, it encouraged me to study harder. It encouraged me to be the best and the brightest of my class, because if I wasn't, I am invisible. And that was like one of the lessons that, you heard Cory Booker talk to Justice. I'm going to speak that into existence. Justice Brown, that you got to do stuff in heels and backwards in order to get to the same place, in order to get near recognition that your white counterparts are doing. And that was something that was made evident to me at a very young age, because what did I know of this? I grew up in a predominantly Black neighborhood, and the first opportunity that I had to encounter people other than folks that looked like myself was an undergrad. And it was a complete shift for me. When I decided that I wanted to go to college, I made a decision to go to a PWI, a predominantly white institution, because when I get out here in this world and I become this doctor that I wanted to be, I know that I'm going to have to engage with these folks all the time. So I better get comfortable now. So there was a lot of learning that was going on at that time. So it wasn't just learning the science, but it was learning how to navigate and communicate with people who are unlike myself, but also learning how to hold myself in those situations. Like, I would walk into that lecture room like God sent me, because I needed that confidence, because they were always already banking on me to fail. I was already presumed incompetent just by what I looked like, just by because I am a woman, and because I am a woman of color. And it's because of those kind of pressures that, I don't have a choice but to be an activist, right? I have to advocate for Black women just for being who I am. So I thought, I can do this, and I graduated with honor from St. Mary's Public Honors College while majoring in theater, because I couldn't leave that part, because I felt like this, it is the art that helps drive me, or helps me to even understand the science. And it was the science that even helped me to reconnect and enhance my relationship with God, because the human body, this planet that we live in, it can't be nothing but God that has helped to coordinate how your hormones kind of work and move to allow certain outcomes to happen in your body. It can't be nothing but God that has allowed the slash and burn. How do we get crops to grow? How plants communicate with each other? How they communicate with it can't be anything but God. And that was also very exciting to me because I was at a point, because, again, I dropped out of school. It's just like I lost my connection and my relationship with God because I thought I could do it all on my own. I thought I knew everything. I thought I knew so much, but again, I am also so grateful that somebody was praying for me. So in my undergrad years, I got very interested in healthcare disparities. Kind of inspired or very moved by the deaths of my grandmother and my father. I wanted to understand, every time we're talking about healthcare disparities, every time we're talking about deaths, mostly cancer deaths or deaths from diabetes, where Black people are always centered. We are highest mortality rate in certain cancers. Hypertension is something that plagues the Black community as well as diabetes, and I wanted to know why. I mean, I knew that we were all human because there's no such thing as race when we're talking about science. We're only one race. We're a human race. So why are all of these kind of medical afflictions always, like, we're talking about African Americans? So what that encouraged me to do is, okay, I'll go get my master's. And I became very interested in understanding the etiology or the development of cancer in African American populations, which got me very interested in genetic and molecular epidemiology, which is the study of diseases in a population. And from that, I was able to do a lot of outreach to communities, which allowed me to use some of my performative skills because this is me trying to make an impact in my community. And it was me applying the science that I knew to do something that was important to me and the people that I loved. So after getting my master's from Georgetown University, I then thought, one of the problems that we have is that the reasons why we're not getting the medications or that Black people aren't centered in some of these scientific studies is that we don't have enough Black PhDs who are saying that this work is important to me and this is the work that you should fund. So I set off my long journey to Detroit. I got my PhD from Wayne State School of Medicine. And again, there, I felt like with every level of ascension, the people that looked like me became fewer and fewer and fewer. So again, it was just it was always me having to feel like I needed to prove myself. But within every step along that journey, what I made sure I did was I found a network of mentors. And what I also did was I networked. And I know that, it's kind of intimidating initially as a younger person to kind of go out to someone who you may idolize or someone who you aspire to be to get some of that information. But having those conversations is so important. Getting your name out there, possibly even finding new mentors to help you navigate this path is so important. So don't be afraid to go say hi. And in many cases, they will welcome it. So network, because that will help in positioning yourself to success. So in this PhD program, and I'm learning a lot about how to, number one, be an academic scientist, but also understanding that there's so much that needs to be done with policy, like how we fund this research, how we are talking about healthcare disparities on a grander scale, and what our government agencies can do to help. So instead of becoming an academic scientist, which I thought is something that I really wanted to do, I thought to myself, well, what if I can shift policy? What if I can talk to those folks who are in DC, which is in my home, and have them make decisions that will impact my community so that they have access to better health care, or even access to information that will help them make informed decisions about their own health. So I had a science policy fellowship with the American Association for the Advancement of Science at the National Science Foundation, where I worked on gender equity in science. And as you know, it is pretty commonly or well known that women, and particularly women of color, don't have it so easy in a very white male-dominated profession. So there are a lot of systemic barriers that we kind of focused on trying to eradicate some of those barriers so that when you, young scholars, are ready to take on some of these jobs, that the road is not as challenging for you. So after that, it was a 2-year fellowship. I wanted to continue to work in the sciences. So now I am a scientific project manager at the Health and Environmental Science Institute, where I have access to global scientists that works on issues regarding toxicity, more specifically toxicities to drugs that are being developed, so that when we are going to our physicians and they're prescribing medications, they will most likely then choose a drug that works more effectively for a particular population. So that's what I'm currently doing. And while I feel like I'm doing good work, I still don't feel like I'm doing enough. So like right now, what I'm hoping to do in my future is to come back to my community, to kind of specialize in Black population and Black population health. So I mean, I guess I will stop there because I know we're running out of time, but I will open the floor to any questions or comments, and open the floor to this general discussion as well.
First of all, thank you so much. That was outstanding. Your story, your journey is amazing and truly inspiring, particularly given who you are as a Black woman in that type of field that is so white male dominated, we'll say. I got a whole bunch of things out of what you just said, but I'm not gonna, I will refrain from trying to share all of my notes, but a couple of things that really, really stood out to me, reminders to evolve, right? Always evolve. We're not in one place. We're not always staying in one place. We get to certain points in life, but we continue dreaming, we continue evolving to always becoming, as our former First Lady wrote that book, Becoming. So true. We're always becoming. We're always evolving. There's always more we can do. Another thing that you talked about was investing in yourself. Oh my gosh, that's so key. Like oftentimes we ask other people to invest in us when we won't even invest in our own selves. Invest in your own development, your skills. Several times, like you said, you went back to school and said, you know what, if you want to be the head pharmacist, you got to go get some education. Invest in yourself. Know that you are worth it and you are worthy, and go invest in yourself. Don't compare yourself to other people, right? We all have our own journeys, our own destinies, our own purpose, our own skills. So we should not compare ourselves to other people. So those are just a few of the many things that I got from your amazing talk with us. I will open it up and allow others, I don't want to hog all the speaking time, to chime in here.
The big one for me that I double underlined was apply pressure. And I think that also speaks back to the investing in yourself, but also I think while you were talking about it, Dr. Shermaine, it made me think of all the difficulties that we are going to come across in this pathway to finding who we are and becoming who we are. And Ms. Johnnie, you mentioned this too, but all of the difficulties that we're going to face and that we're going to come across, but that doesn't mean that we give up. That means we work through it, we get over the hump, and we continue forward. And that's not impossible to do. In fact, it's greatly possible to get over those difficulties and get over those humps. The other big one I wanted to talk about, speaking of difficulties, was that you dropped out of school. And I think a lot of people, they think like, if I'm a dropout, I'm not destined for anything. If I give up, then I'm not destined for anything. But giving up is just the opportunity to do it again, to get back up, to evolve, to keep flying, and to be better than we were before that dropout. And like Nikki, I wrote a lot of things, so let me try to narrow it down a little bit. This one, Nick, I think you just alluded to this too, but you saw a gap and you filled it. And I think as Black people in general, but as Black women especially, those gaps are opportunities for us to fill it. And there's not enough of us in these places anyway, so just do it. If you see the gap, you'll figure it out. But again, like Ms. Johnnie said earlier, you got to take that first step. I'll stop there. I'll let someone else speak.
Well,
and
let me say something about that, because I know Ms. Johnnie said, she was talking about representation, right? Representation matters. But even if you don't see anyone there, you should not let that stop you from getting to where you want to go, because even if you're the first, you can make sure you're not the only, right? So you can then become the shoulders that folks who are coming up behind you can stand on. So do not let that deter you. And if it means that you need to find a white mentor, well, buddy boy, buckle up, right? Right? Do what you need to do to get to the place you want to go.
Actually, I'm sorry, that reminded me. There is one big thing that I do want to say, and that's that you had a dream when you were younger, and although your career path didn't turn out that way now, you haven't given up on it. That's something that you still want to do, which is also important, because I think sometimes we end up in a situation that wasn't what we planned, and we feel like we have to give up on what our dreams were, and that's not true at all. So.
Absolutely. We are so much. We are so much. Why couldn't we be enough? My husband always tells me, you too much. You're doing too much. But we are so much. Like, even like I can tell you that I picked up knitting during the pandemic. And I am using I'm using all this creative outlet to not only to relieve stress, but it's now become who I am. I think 6 years ago, I took up sewing. So I am always finding ways to integrate that artistic side. And I'm learning that there's so much science in the arts as well, right? So I'm finding ways to marry my two loves. And hopefully I can maybe carve a path forward where I use both art and science to educate my community on health-related matters.
And speaking of that, I'm just going to throw this out there. She picked up knitting and then taught it to me as a stress reliever. And it's funny, but also it goes back to what you just said, is that you're combining the art, you're combining the science, because you knew as a friend that I needed something to release some of the frustrations that I was having. So that's also important that we do those things.
I wanted to say that I absolutely enjoyed both speakers, two different journeys. A lot of what you guys said resonated with me. Dr. Shermaine, I can see how the Broadway and you make science fun. So that's your gift, because I was all in. You know, if this were some scholarly whatever, I probably would have tuned out. But your personality is so bold, so big. You can just see the theatrics there, whether you're putting on or not. Like, it's there and it's entertaining, and you're going to capture an audience that would not have normally been captured. And so I appreciate that in you. I did have one question. You started off the story about your grandmother and grandfather, and they had diabetes. And, you know, really it's what you put in your body. A doctor told me a couple of years ago that cancer hits Black people a certain way because there's a lack of vitamin D. And I just wanted to know your take on that, because he prescribed me some vitamin D pills, and it made sense. And he was the first doctor that ever kind of said that. So I will put myself on mute. Great job. And if you could just tell me if you know anything about that.
There is some research that has been performed. Well, vitamin D, what it also does, the first issue is that, you know, we have this beautiful melanin, and because of this gorgeous pigment, the sun doesn't always efficiently activate the vitamin D that's in our skin, because the melanin kind of, you know, it's protective. So what vitamin D is actually involved in is also like it's what they call a nuclear receptor, and the nucleus is like, it is the information center of the cell, and it houses your genetic material, and it tells cells like when to express certain receptors, and one of those receptors is related to folate, and folic acid is really important for cellular division, but it's also important for helping cells to kind of repair itself. So, and cancer is a disease of the genome. So what they mean is that there are certain mutations that occur in genes that may, because, you know, your body is already, listen at God. Your body is already made to detect errors and correct them. Look at him. Your body, and when they find these errors, they will excise it and then put in a whole new code so that your body will function properly. But if you don't have these you know, the adequate amount of cofactors or vitamins to ensure that the transcription of these receptors are happening, then your body cannot appropriately identify where these mistakes are. They cannot excise these mistakes. And so the mistakes go on until it hits like a critical gene, like a tumor suppressor gene, and the cells keep growing and growing because they don't have a stop signal, and they keep growing and they keep growing and they keep growing until eventually you end up with cancer. A shameless plug, Black folks, put on sunscreen. We are rising in our incidence of skin cancer because we believe that melanin is a superhero, a superpower. Put on some sunscreen, please. Save us.
Awesome. That's good advice. I'm getting ready to go on hopefully a vacation in April. I'm going to pack the sunscreen for all of us. One thing that both you and Aunt Johnnie said, which I think it was a recurring thing, so timely, connecting it. Both of you said things about learn to be comfortable where you're uncomfortable. Well, at least that was my interpretation of it. You both talked about experiences and environments where it was uncomfortable. Sometimes you didn't see people that looked like you. Sometimes you were in environments where they wanted to limit and restrict you or were against you. But you all learned to grow comfortable. Not that you liked it, but you learned to thrive even in the midst of those uncomfortable situations. And I think that's something that all of us, especially our young scholars, can learn even now. I think that's important. You have to take it with you for the rest of your life. We're not going to be able to control our environments, right? None of us are going to be able to control dealing with difficult people or situations and challenges. We're going to face all of that, but the successful person learns to persevere in the midst of those situations and to learn to take them in stride and overcome them rather than to succumb to them, right? And so I just wanted to highlight that. Ashley, we had a couple questions, I think, for both of our speakers. Do we want to ask those real quick before we let everybody go?
Yeah, why don't you get started? I'm not ready.
Awesome. Okay, so Aunt Johnnie, question for you. What is your perspective on Black women in law enforcement in the current state of racial adversity? You're on mute.
I'm just sitting saying amen to you guys. I'm so sorry. Anyway, I'm not sure. I have to say this, back to Ms. Shermaine, when she said, when she walked in and all as a voice and all. Yeah, I can see where you would have probably put my little unit chief, my section chief, who was a little Marine that I had to file 7 EEO complaints with, before I could get some relief from him. So I would have loved to have had you walking in with me. That's all I have to say. But repeat, Nikki, because the girl is old and I forgot as soon as I start talking to someone.
No problem. What's your perspective?
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Okay.
What's your perspective on Black women in law enforcement in the current state of racial adversity?
I don't see that it should affect them continue to work in law enforcement and strive to be what you want to be in law enforcement. I think you're just going to have to be strong. And I think what I've discovered from the police department and a little town, Albany, Georgia, which is strictly, you know what, and then I was the second person to be hired by those people. And then I worked my way up to the detective bureau, which and they realized that you can have, and most of the people there didn't even have a probably high school education, and not being negative at all, y'all, but they were older white males that they gave a gun to it and go work. Where every Black person that was there at least had a high school education and had worked their way up. So I saw that the white, especially the white male, was very hard on being around a Black, more so the female than the male. And I'm not sure why. And most of the Black, I was there and another Black female. We were the first 2 females on that force. So my thing was that I was so busy mentally trying to move on. I did what I had to do. respected them, they respected me, and I moved on. And I'm not sure I can help you with my perspective in that area, but when I went into the Bureau, I found that it was like, and I hate to say this, but it's a fact, crabs in a barrel, everybody trying to reach up and, and that was the thing that I had a hard time with. And I got with a group of two males and another female and tried to sit down and think, what can we do to bring us together? And then eventually it ended into a major class action lawsuit. I'm not sure how to answer that. I have to be honest with you, because it's a cold structure and everybody wants to be the first to move up. And they were all, you can't get some will do whatever I have to say it the way I believe. Some will do what the white male will do. They will go out and hang with them and be their little, whatever you want to call it. And the others will be like me, grow up with my daddy attitude. I'm going to get your respect because I deserve it, because I give respect. And I work hard for it. You don't give me anything. I work very hard for them and I paid my price. And if you act like, you're one of those people, then, and they can't come and talk to you about another Black. If you let them know, they act like you're the only Black that can handle this. Oh, you're really smart. There are other smart, like I would say, there are other females behind me who can go out there and run and, supervise a squad of agents. But, I just find it very hard communicating with white people, period, trying to make me feel like you're not like that Black. My husband says the same thing in the Navy, that they just say, but oh, Carl, you're smart, you this and that. And you can't, and they buy you over there, and half of the time you look around there, your buddy is sitting over there thinking they have made it. You hadn't made it. You hadn't done anything but just sow yourself out, bottom line. So it was one of those things I experienced a lot, and I just haven't been able to deal with that. I'll be quite honest with you. I'd rather kind of go on and leave you over there.
Gotcha. No, that's good. I mean, that's been helpful. It's sometimes that's the best that we part ways.
Well, it's real.
It
and
is.
I think it's something that we still deal with. Figuring out how much of ourselves we are going to put ourselves through to get to that point where we get the respect that you said we deserve. That question, though, does lead us to our question for Dr. Shermaine. And I think you spoke to this a little bit, so I'm going to restructure the question and say that, well, the original question was, what's your perspective on Black women in science and health? So I'm going to restructure it and say, what has been your experience as a Black woman in science and health? Have there been any ordeals that you've gone through or been through?
We don't have time for all the stories, but it's always these. Sometimes they're microaggressions, but sometimes they're macro, right? And I'll give you an example of both. I can remember when I was my first time being in lab. This is in undergrad. A kid said to me, "I'm not even gonna. We're growing in teams, and this is one of the. I get very antsy when I'm first of all, I'm the only Black person in the lab. So then we're asked to work with teams, and we're like, jotting names down and getting contact information. And the kid says to me, "I'm not even going to ask you how to spell your name." And then I said to him, "Why? You don't know how to read? You're not good at spelling? I mean, what's the issue? Why can't you? Why don't? I mean, what is the problem?" But it was already those little racist kind of jabs are so inherent in science because they believe that it is a place where I do not belong. And it was always me for a long time, constantly showing them, yeah, I'm here, I belong here, and I'm doing this so much better than you, so much better than you. And for even my PhD advisor, white male, I got a grant from the National Institute for Health. It's called an F31 to kind of help pay for my research as a scientist there at Wayne State. And this man was just so nasty, right? If it wasn't me doing what he wanted me to do, I mean, I was on a 4-year track. I was going to do my research and I was set to graduate. I'd done all the studies that I needed to do. My dissertation was just ready to be written. All the science had been performed, but because I had this grant, he wanted to use me being a woman scientist because they give perks to, I guess, PIs or principal investigators who will train minorities and women in science. Just because there's not a lot of them, they wanted to kind of incentivize folks to bring these people in labs, because now they're discovering that diversity is so important in the sciences and may actually help to find cures to whatever, because we have diverse perspectives. So what he did, he abused my identity in order to get more funding for his lab, and then told me, well, that grant goes out for another 2 years. You're not ready to go. I'm not ready to what, sir? But here's what we agreed upon. And what it meant was that, okay, so I know that you're not going to do what's right. So I had to go to the dean of students, who I was fortunate enough to have networked with, right? He became a different mentor to me. Because I was always prepared. I always knew that I had to be 2 times better than the other students around me. And he saw me. So that relationship was already there. But even though this man bad-mouthed me, trash-talked me, called me everything but the child of God, I had already built a relationship with an ally who was the dean of students. And so when I explained to him the situation, he said, you know what? You don't need to be in that lab to write your dissertation, because clearly you're finished with your experiments. You go home. Go home, be with your family and write. And if there's any problems that come up, CC me on the emails you send him. So I mean, there's always problems there. And because science from the beginning is just an inherently racist discipline, there's always going to be problems. But I'm here to fix them, and all the other Black women who are there are there to fix them. And we are living testament that we can do this, and we are going to change the face in the shape of science just from us being here, and from us encouraging and supporting other young Black women who want to come in to kind of help figure out why Black breast cancer rates in Black women are so high, or why the mortality rates in Black women are so high. It wasn't until recently that NIH did this huge study on Black women and breast cancer, when it's been known to be an issue for eons. Eons. But what it took was enough people who looked like us to say, this is where you should put your money. This is a problem. And let me explain to you why. Because if you can cure cancer, the most aggressive cancers in these populations, then you are sure to find treatments for some of the less severe cases. So why not start here? Why not start with us? And it's because we're here, we can now make those demands. Sorry.
Don't apologize. I appreciate both, or we appreciate both of you in 2 fields where I think Black people have faced the most immense, I don't even know what to call it, vile, circumstances. There we go. And so to have you all in those positions fighting for us and the things that we need is, everything, I know, to me. So thank you. I'll go turn it back over to Nick.
Outstanding. No, you're right. That was very, very helpful. As we all have had experiences that we can share. And I think it's been so invaluable to hear of the experiences of you, Johnnie, as well as you, Dr. Shermaine. Thank you so much for taking time out to speak to us as women, and also especially to our girls, our scholars that are coming forward and coming behind us. I think one thing both of you resonated so well, it's important to give back. And that's what we're seeking to do. May you scholars be empowered, may you be strengthened, may you be encouraged to know that you can be whatever you want to become. Don't give up. Yes, you will face challenges, but you can overcome them.
Mhm.
With that, I want to say thank you all for your time and attention, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.